and he came to Eagle Creek. And when he graduated, they took him back to prison and became the chaplain of the prison. I said, okay. I remember looking up in the sky and going, okay, God, if you're real, if you exist, the popular prison of Angola, when we tell our story, people are like, you were there. You know what it is to sit in these chairs. So when we deliver hope from the words of Jesus Christ and our testimony, this chaplain was a cartel hitman. He has 32 confirmed kills.
Hi, welcome to Faith Trailblazers, the show where we showcase those who are advancing the kingdom of God inside and outside the church walls. I am really excited about my guest today. He's one of my favorite friends. He's on the pastoral staff of Shreveport Community Church, and he runs Eagle Creek Recovery Ministries for Men. Quinton, how you doing today?
Doing phenomenal, Tammy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely, wouldn't miss it.
Yeah. So tell us about Eagle Creek.
Eagle Creek is a 3-month faith-based drug rehab center for men. And what we do is we get men that are coming in off of drugs, coming out of prison, whatever they are trying to do. Get off drugs is the main thing. And we have a foundation of Jesus Christ. So when we teach them the foundation of Jesus Christ, they learn to get off drugs because of the relationship they have with Jesus. So it's a 3-month program, and they're in there all day long, and they're learning about discipleship, they're learning about the Bible, they're learning about anger management, crisis prevention, crisis intervention, everything to do with boundaries, and teach them how to be a good, godly man.
I love that. And you guys have a transitional house when they get done with the program, correct?
We sure do. The Transitional Living Assistant House. And once they graduate, they can move in. They can either serve on staff as an intern, or they can go get a job and pay rent weekly. And a lot of them stay on staff to serve.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you guys have had some great success stories. Can you think of one or two that you'd share with us about that?
No, I don't have any. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, we have plenty of success stories. We've got mayors that have come through. We've had lawyers, doctors, senators, congressmen. They come through, but the main one that I like to talk about the most is, his name was John Skipworth. He was looking at 25 years in prison. He did 8, and he came to Eagle Creek. And when he graduated, they took him back to prison and became the chaplain of the prison. When he got done being the chaplain of the prison, they released him, and he became a pastor, and he started churches all over the world. And then he had his own church, and then he's been a pastor of his church for a while. And the Lord took him home just a few months ago. But he was a very successful story that came through Eagle Creek. He actually was in jail for attempted murder. And the guy that was at Eagle Creek at the time, when John came to Eagle Creek, he was the one he almost killed.
Interesting.
So that's crazy.
Yeah, you know, the enemy comes really hard at those with really strong callings.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I minister out there quite frequently, and the number of men that I've met with really strong callings in their life that the enemy comes after is just incredible to me.
Yeah.
And on that note, you came out of addiction yourself, right?
Oh, my goodness. You talk about living in hell. Tammy, you did the same thing.
Right.
19 years of drug addiction. Spent a couple years in prison for assault and battery. I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God. I even told people God never existed. And if you talk about Jesus, it's just a story that you made up in your head. I didn't believe. And then one day, I remember the divorce paperwork was on the judge's desk. This was the second time my wife filed. I didn't know about the first time. We were sitting there at my buddy's apartment. He goes, "Quint, you're not paying rent. You need to leave." I said, okay. I remember looking up in the sky and going, okay, God, if you're real, if you exist at all, I'll do whatever it takes to get off drugs and get a life of purpose. That's all I want. Well, that was almost 12 years ago. And here I am, full-time ministry, because God said, okay, I'm doing my part. You're going to stick to what you just said. So I've been in ministry ever since. And I wouldn't change it for the world. And there's nobody in this world that's going to convince me there is no God. No one. Because he's real. And I believe if you have a true calling with Jesus, there's nothing that can stop you. Getting through an addiction, getting a marriage restored, getting family restored, there's nothing that he can't do.
That's right. He is definitely in the restoration business.
Amen. He sure is.
Yeah, that's great. So what was your drug of choice back in the day?
I liked opiates. I liked meth, cocaine. It was a speed. I like the speed.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm so glad you got free of that. So when did you actually get saved?
It was January 24th, what year are we in now?
24?
2012. 12 years ago. January 24th, 2012. I remember Sean Alexander, a football player, played for Alabama, played for the Seattle Seahawks a couple years in pros. And I didn't like him because he ran all over LSU. If you're a sports fan, you know about that. But I remember I was got invited to a conference after rehab, and I was sitting there going, why am I here? What's going on? And he was the guest speaker, and he did an altar call, and I ran up front, and he laid hands on me and prayed over me. And I've never talked to the guy ever since, but if he did that for one guy, he did it for 1,000 more. And you never know the fruit, what you're doing when you do an altar call for somebody, laying hands on them, because we don't get to see that beautiful part. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And I just would love to know how many people you've touched that have gone out to speak to the nations. He's done that for me, and I get to travel the world and do this. And he has no clue. But I'm sure when he gets to the kingdom, when he dies and goes to heaven, he'll know. He'll know.
Yes, I'm really fortunate. God will scoop people across my path that I ministered to in jail or an addiction environment.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, they'll run up to me, Miss Tammy, I've been sober 3 years now, or whatever. Yeah, you've had that happen to you, I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when did you come aboard at Shreveport Community?
2016. It was April 2016. I got invited to a meeting, and they asked about staff and working at Eagle Creek and coming on board at the church. And when I came on board, I remember telling my wife, I was like, I don't know. Some things I don't know about this, because that means I gotta be more involved in church and be more involved in studying the Bible. And she goes, you already do that. What's the problem? Well, it's more fun now, put it that way. It's a lot more exciting. And when I came on staff in 2016, I didn't know what I was getting into. I'm operations, facilities, and addiction pastor. So I get to do a lot, and I take care of all the properties.
I love that. So you guys have The Gate. Tell us about that.
The Gate started over 20 years ago, and it was a vision that Pastor Denny Duran had about just a morning time taking care of God's people, sending them out. And that starts at 6:50 in the morning. And what happens is we get there at 6:50, we do worship for 10 minutes, a time of prayer for a few minutes, and then we have a guest speaker that comes and speaks for about 30 minutes. And that sets the stage for all of us that sit in there and send us out. And Eagle Creek is part of that. It's mandatory for them. So they get to start out the day with a good message, good worship, and good prayer.
That's great. So you don't want to miss the next segment where we ask Quinton about the outreach that his church does and some success stories that come out of that. Thank you so much, and come right back.
More than 20,000 Rwandan children die every year due to preventable diseases brought on by poor living conditions. Installing concrete floors will reduce the incidence of childhood diarrhea by nearly 50% and parasitic infections by 80%, saving the lives of thousands of children each year. For more information, please visit foundationsforchrist.org/donate today.
Are you looking for a trustworthy publishing company to publish your book? One that understands the process and upholds Christian values in its business practices?
Introducing Covenant Books, an author-friendly publisher who shares your beliefs and wants to publish your story. Call us today to get a free author packet to help get you started.
We realize your book is unique, personal, and written with a higher purpose. That's the content we're looking for.
We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process with professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the industry.
Covenant distributes and sells your book online and in bookstores everywhere. We convert your book in ebook format and sell it on Amazon, Apple, iTunes, and to these distributors. Our authors love us.
So if you've written a biography, a devotional, a memoir, self-help, or any genre, we can help. Be like these authors and get your book published and sold today.
Call right now for your free writer's guide.
1-800-217-3315.
Welcome back to Faith Trailblazers. I'm your host, Tammy Lark. With me today is my friend Quinton Light. Quinton, we were just talking about your church, Shreveport Community Church, and I understand you guys do a lot of outreach for the public.
Yes, you know, this is the senior pastor, Denny Duron, his wife, they run it, and their son, Denny Rodney Duron, and he's married to my stepdaughter, Sarah Duron, and they're the lead pastors. And they've had this church in the 60s because it was started with their dad, with Denny Rodney's grandfather. And they've had it around for Shreveport Community Church for a long time, and their heart is serving and getting out into the community. That's why it's called Shreveport Community Church. And we do an outreach once every third or fourth month called I Love West Shreveport. And what goes on there is we reach the West Shreveport area. We'll go clean up a business. We'll go help paint a business. We'll feed the first responders, the nursing homes, the police department, like I said, the first responders, and the fire departments. And then we'll go to schools if we're on the school facilities and help with the schools, clean up and stuff like that. And my part is to get 18-wheelers full of food or supplies brought in. And it's usually Operations Blessing or Convoy Hope, and they jump on board because what we do is we're able to feed probably 1,250 families each outreach. And we'll get the 18-wheeler in, and we don't have to even put it out on social media because people drive by and they start lining up 2 or 3 hours before we even open the doors to even that truck. So that goes it takes about an hour and a half to get rid of 26 pallets of food. It's pretty amazing to watch these families drive up, and especially during disaster times. Nobody wants a disaster. Nobody wants tornadoes. Nobody wants any of that. But the fact of life is it happens. And when we get these trucks in, the families will show up in tears. They've got nothing, which puts us into tears. And you know what? We're just being the hands and feet of Jesus. And that's what we get to do. That was our main outreach.
That is so great. So do you do anything special around the holidays concerning that?
For back to school, we'll give back book bags with supplies inside. For our Thanksgiving time frame, we'll do turkey dinners. And we got business that will come on and donate turkeys. And we get to give families their turkeys. And it's amazing to me because sometimes if you're not outside the four walls of the church, you think everything's fine.
Yes.
But when you get out there, you see people aren't eating. People aren't clothed. They have just enough to make sure they eat maybe in the beginning of the week and then struggle the rest of the week. And when families and people come on board and they want to give turkeys and food, that's what makes it so much more enjoyable. But the problem is, what do we do after that? That's what we got to start digging into as the church and find out how to fix the problem. It's great to feed them, but what about after that? What do we do after that?
You know, Quinton, that is such a great example of advancing the kingdom of God outside the church walls. I am so glad you guys are doing that. Yeah. You know, about a year ago, I got to serve on one of those teams, and we went to nursing homes and fire stations with all kinds of snacks for them, and they were so appreciative.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just loved it. I love that you guys do that. That's great. When is your next event coming up?
It'll be in July. I don't have the exact date just yet, but it will be in July. It'll be back to school supplies. And we'll also go feed the first responders and the needy. And usually at that time frame, there's a barbecue place called Hog Heaven. They'll put plates of food together to take to the police departments. And it's not just a rib, it's ribs, chicken, sausage. Making me hungry now. So I know what we're doing after this. Yeah.
Okay, and if someone would like to sew into like buying the backpacks for the kids, because that will be here before we know it.
Absolutely.
How do they go about doing that?
They can call the church. It'd be area code 318-671-7100, and they ask for Robin Cook or Rhonda Foster.
Okay, fantastic. So you've also done a lot of prison ministry. You've spoken several times at Angola, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell me about that and what fertile ground it is.
Oh my goodness, it's so ripe for the harvest down there, and people want hope. And you've been in jail, I've been in prison. We know what that feels like to sit behind the walls or the bars and say, I've got nothing out there. There's no hope for me. And that's what they're saying down there. People say that a lot in prison doors. There's no hope for me. And that's what people want is hope. So walking into these prisons and being able to tell my story, especially in the popular prison of Angola, when we tell our story, people are like, you were there. You know what it is to sit in these chairs. So when we deliver hope from the words of Jesus Christ and our testimony. What's the word say? The people would deliver from what? The blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. We get to share our story, tell the truth, and give maybe 1 or 2 or 3, maybe 1,000 hope to say, you know what? I'm behind these doors. I'm going to learn. I'm going to do something. I'm going to better myself. So when I do get out, I have some foundation to stand on. But speaking at these places, it brings a whole new heart for you, because you see a whole new picture and you understand from a whole new aspect and perspective what people are. And I spoke at one prison, and I remember getting done. There was 42 altar calls, 42, and there was only 150 that came to the thing. 42.
Yay.
To me, that's 42 new believers.
Yes.
And then they're all like, well, who wants to get baptized? Well, those 42 wanted to get water baptized, but a more said, well, I want to rededicate my life. So they rededicated and got baptized. So going into the prisons, and you've done it several times, you're still doing it. That is so important just to reach the kingdom.
And I love what you said about giving them hope. That's what it's about, right? A lot of them. And it's such fertile ground because they have a revelation that what they've been doing hadn't been working too good, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's it.
So it's so great to do altar calls at jails. It's great. I love that you're doing that. Yeah. So do you have any stories from Angola? We only have about a minute left, but I thought you could share one.
I'll make a quick one. We've got here's a story. I've got a buddy, a guy I knew that came through our rehab that went back on doing a lot of drugs, went on a 5-day binge of all the speeds you could think of, crystal, coke, meth, all that stuff. And he ended up killing 2 cops, and going after people. He's on death row right now, and he knows Jesus. He knows Jesus. And always remember, it's about his relationship with Jesus that has him in eternity. It's not what I say, not what you say, not the family forgiving him.
Right.
It's about his relationship with Jesus, and he knows the Lord. He knows the Lord. And I believe because of his heartfelt questions towards the police that he killed, he didn't know he actually killed him until after he sobered up. So his relationship with Jesus and those kind of stories can touch people in his cell next to him and say, hey, we're here for the rest of our lives. Let's get to know Jesus.
Yes. So we'll be right back.
Are you looking for a trustworthy publishing company to publish your book? One that understands the process and upholds Christian values in its business practices?
Introducing Covenant Books, an author-friendly publisher who shares your beliefs and wants to publish your story. Call us today to get a free author packet to help get you started.
We realize your book is unique, personal, and written with a higher purpose. That's the content we're looking for.
We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process with professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the industry.
Covenant distributes and sells your book online and in bookstores everywhere. We convert your book in ebook format and sell it on Amazon, Apple iTunes, and to these distributors. Our authors love us.
So if you've written a biography, a devotional, a memoir, self-help, or any genre, we can help. Be like these authors and get your book published and sold today.
Call right now for your free writer's guide.
1-800-217-3315.
More than 20,000 Rwandan children die every year due to preventable diseases brought on by poor living conditions. Installing concrete floors will reduce the incidence of childhood diarrhea by nearly 50% and parasitic infections by 80%, saving the lives of thousands of children each year. For more information, please visit foundationsforchrist.org/donate today.
You may want to attend college,
but you have a full-time job and kids that need your full-time attention.
How can you possibly attend college?
You learn online at South University.
Earn your degree while you still earn a paycheck.
Take care of your future while you take care of your children.
Earn your degree any hour, any day, from anywhere.
And the credit transfer policies also make it easier to return to college.
Earn your degree online from instructors who go way beyond the classroom to help their students change their lives.
And help their students change the lives of their children.
Learn online at South University.
1-800-233-0956.
College is a road to your destination.
And every journey begins with a starting point.
Start from South University online.
The convenience of taking classes where you want.
The flexibility of taking classes when you want.
So you can become who you want.
South University online.
1-800-233-0956.
Welcome back to Faith Trailblazers. I'm your host, Tammy Lark. With me today is Pastor Quinton Light. And before the break, he was talking about some stories from prison. So Quinton, you do a lot of ministry work overseas. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, you just got asked to speak in a prison in Colombia. Tell us about that.
Oh, let me tell you about that story. I was in Santa Marta, Colombia, a while back, and I got done speaking at a church one Friday night. And I gave maybe 15 seconds of my testimony of being a drug addict or a delivered drug addict and spending time in prison. I get back to the hotel about 11:30 at night and there's a message for me. So I called the front desk and they said, hey, this guy wants to talk to you. So I was okay, so I talked to him. He's the prison chaplain of the third worst prison to go to in Colombia. 1,200 inmates and 175 beds.
Oh.
They sleep on the floor, and they're all in just on the cement floor. And he goes, I would like for you to come speak at our prison. I was like, absolutely, what do I need to do? He goes, well, we got to get your passport. They've got to approve it first. Well, we'd already left before they let me come in there to approve it. And they just approved it about 8 months ago. So the next time I'm in Colombia, Santa Marta, I get to speak at this prison. This chaplain was a cartel hitman. He has 32 confirmed kills. So what happened was, what caught him was, he was working for Pablo Escobar, and he was giving a picture of the person he was supposed to go kill, and he was riding the motorcycle down the road and saw her and jumped off and he did what he had to do. And he got caught and he got thrown in jail. This girl was a reporter, and she had an inside source of the cartel family, and she had everything she was about to release to the government about the Pablo Escobar cartel. And she got killed because of knowing all that stuff. So he was the one to go do this. So he was the hitman for Pablo Escobar. So I get to go speak at his prison, the prison he chaplains. And he turned his life over to Christ while he was there. And now his services have, I think, 900 people in it.
Fantastic.
At this prison. So yes, because of God, I get to go speak at this prison. And COVID was happening at the time. We couldn't even get into the little jails around Shreveport. But yet I can go into another country and speak at the third worst prison ever in the whole country. So God has opened so many doors just on that alone.
I love that.
Yeah.
So how many times have you been to Colombia?
Three. Just three times. And I do a preaching circuit down there of 4 different churches, and we just make our rounds, and we get to go feed the needy and help the people that, I'm telling you, we were in one area, these kids that are age 8, never seen a pair of shoes that they had of their own. Never. So when I get back to the States, I was speaking at a high school, and I was like, hey guys, speaking to a bunch of 13-year-olds. I was like, you're 13 years old. Say, if you remember the age of 8, how many pair of shoes do you think you had by the age of 8? 5, 6, 8, 9, some said 12. I was like, now think about never even owning a pair. And of course, half the kids didn't understand, but half the kids like, well, what can we do to send help for them? Can we get them shoes? But it was a tent city. They lived in tents and no shoes for the kids. The parents had shoes, but the kids didn't.
Yeah, sometimes I don't think Americans realize how blessed they are.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, all over the world, people are living with no running water, no electricity, and that kind of poverty. Yeah, we're blessed.
Oh, very.
Very blessed. So have you been to any other countries, or do you have a desire to go?
I've been to Vietnam several times as well. We've spoke at churches and a lot of drug rehabs over there. So while I was in Vietnam, it was in Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City. We were asked to go speak at a rehab. It was the first rehab we ever spoke at. And everybody in the rehab wasn't saying anything. They weren't talking to us. And one guy comes up and goes, so y'all just a bunch of Americans wanted to see what a rehab was in Vietnam? I was like, no. So they said, why don't you tell your story? So I told my story, and every single one wanted to speak because they wanted somebody else, like they just thought we were just passerbyers. And they all opened up and started telling stories about why they're in rehab. And Vietnam is a hard place to do drugs. It's a hard place to do drugs anywhere, but if you're caught with marijuana, that's death penalty. It's a death penalty over there. So coming out, they don't let you speak about Jesus on the street, but they allow faith-based rehabs because the success rate is in the 80th percentile over there because of Jesus. But when they graduate and move on, they don't start counting statistics of sobriety until they've been out of rehab and on the working for 2 years. We like to say, you graduated? Oh, we got 31 people that graduated doing good. Well, he just graduated today. But over there, they wait 2 full years after they leave the rehab before they even count them sober.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
So Vietnam it's everywhere, Tammy. They're ripe for the pig and for the harvest of God. It is.
Yes.
It's everywhere.
And I'm really glad that you brought up the success rate of faith-based recovery centers like Eagle Creek, right?
Amen.
Yeah, compared to secular, the statistics are so much better at faith-based facilities.
Absolutely. It depends on what statistics you look at and show. Some will say 20, some will say 30. Then you got some out there that's going to say 40 to 50% higher success rate in faith-based, depending on what you're looking at. I always like to say it this way. To fix something internal, our addiction, it's a heart condition, we've got to have the flowing water of Jesus Christ, right? We can take a pill to say, oh, I'm off drugs, but you're addicted to something that's external. God's going to be internal in our heart to fix all of us. And we need all we can get of Jesus to make sure the addictions are covered. Because he says it right there in Matthew 6 stars at John 16:33. I've overcome the world. If he's overcome it, why don't we just allow him to overcome it with us? That's what we need.
Yeah, and you know I'm in the addiction field, right, as an addictions counselor. And I can tell you Jesus is the only answer to addiction. That's it, yeah. So we have hardly scratched the surface on the questions that I wanted to ask you.
None.
I had such a good time with you today, Quinton. So would you come back on the show?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. I love that. So, and you were in the Army, correct?
I did. I served 7 years in the U.S. Army, working for the general's staff and working for the big wigs, if you want to call them these days.
Hey, I appreciate your service.
Thank you so much.
Very much. Thank you so much for that. So be sure and join us next week on Faith Trailblazers, where we showcase those who are advancing the kingdom of God inside and outside the church walls. You can find us on Lift TV at 10 a.m. Central Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks a bunch, and y'all have a great week.